In the vast rolling landscapes of North America, where golden grass waves like an ocean under endless skies, there once moved a creature so powerful, so iconic, that it shaped entire ecosystems and human civilizations. This is the story of the American bison, a symbol of strength, a survivor of extinction, a living relic of the Ice Age, and the beating heart of the Great Plains. For thousands of years, the American bison walked in herds so large they shook the earth itself. Early explorers described them as black rivers moving across the land. Native peoples saw them not just as animals but as sacred life deeply connected to survival, spirit, and culture. But this is not just a story of the past. This is also a story of near destruction and remarkable recovery. Today, we explore one of North America's most legendary animals, the American bison. The American bison, scientifically known as bison, is one of the largest land mammals in North America, standing up to 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing over a ton. The bison is a true giant of the grasslands. But its story begins long before recorded history. Thousands of years ago, during the last ice age, massive bison species roamed alongside mammoths and saber-toothed cats. These ancient ancestors gradually evolved into the modern bison we see today. Unlike many ice age animals that disappeared, the bison adapted. As glaciers retreated, forests spread, and grasslands expanded, the bison found its perfect home, the prairie. Wide open spaces, endless grass, room to roam. And so began one of the most successful large mammal stories in North American history. Before European settlement, an estimated 30 to 60 million bison roamed across North America, from Canada to Mexico, from the Rocky Mountains to the Mississippi River. They were everywhere, but they did not roam randomly. Bison herds followed ancient migration routes, paths shaped by seasons, rainfall, and fresh grass growth. These migrations were not just movement, they were survival rhythms of an entire ecosystem. As bison grazed, they shaped the land itself. They fertilized soil with their waste. They created grazing patterns that allowed plant diversity to flourish. They dug wallows, shallow depressions that filled with rainwater and became microhabitats for birds, insects, and amphibians. The prairie did not just host bison, it depended on them. Bison are deeply social animals. They live in herds that can range from small family groups to massive seasonal gatherings. Within the herd, structure matters. Females and their calves form the core social unit. Males often form smaller bachelor groups or roam independently, especially during mating season. Communication is constant through body language, vocalizations, and movement. A head shake can signal irritation. A grunt can warn of danger. A sudden run can trigger an entire stampede. And when a herd moves, it moves as one living force. Calves are born in spring when the prairie is green and abundant. A newborn bison, called a calf, can stand within minutes of birth and run within hours. But life is not easy on the prairie. Predators once included wolves, grizzly bears, and human hunters. Yet the greatest threat would not come from nature. It would come from humans. For thousands of years, Native American tribes lived in balance with the bison. The animal was not only a source of food, but also clothing, tools, shelter, and spiritual meaning. Every part of the bison was used. Nothing was wasted. But in the 1800s, everything changed. As European settlers moved westward, the Great Plains became a target for expansion, railroads, and agriculture. And the bison became a target as well. Hunting intensified dramatically, not for survival, but for trade, sport, and control. Entire herds were slaughtered, sometimes thousands in a single day. By the late 1800s, the population dropped from tens of millions to fewer than 1,000 animals in the wild. It was one of the most dramatic wildlife collapses in history. The great herds were gone, and with them, an entire way of life was nearly erased. By the early 1900s, the American bison stood at the edge of extinction, but a small group of people refused to let it disappear. Conservationists, indigenous leaders, and concerned citizens began gathering the last remaining bison into protected areas. One of the most important refuges became Yellowstone National Park. Here, in isolation, a small herd survived. These animals became the genetic foundation of today's wild bison population. Without Yellowstone, the species might have vanished entirely from the wild. This moment marked a turning point, the beginning of recovery. Over the decades, conservation efforts slowly expanded. Protected herds were established in national parks, reserves, and tribal lands. Today, American bison can once again be found in places like Yellowstone National Park Wind Cave, National Park Badlands, National Park Tribal Lands across the Great Plains, but the population remains far smaller than its historical peak. Modern bison are often managed carefully, with genetic monitoring to preserve diversity and prevent inbreeding. Some live wild, some live semi-wild on protected lands. Others are raised for conservation or ranching purposes. But the return of the bison is one of the greatest wildlife recovery stories in North America. Bison are not just survivors, they are ecosystem engineers. Their grazing patterns prevent any one plant species from dominating. Their movement creates space for wildflowers and grasses to regenerate. Their wallows collect water and create seasonal wetlands. Even their migrations influence fire patterns by shaping vegetation growth. In many ways, restoring bison also means restoring the prairie itself. Scientists now recognize that without bison, the Great Plains ecosystem is incomplete. They are not just part of the landscape. They help define it. For indigenous peoples of North America, the bison is far more than wildlife. It is life itself. Many tribes built entire cultures around the seasonal rhythms of the bison. The animal provided food, clothing, tools, shelter materials, and spiritual teachings. Stories, ceremonies, and traditions often center on respect for the bison's sacrifice and generosity. Even today, tribal nations lead many of the most important bison restoration projects. For them, bringing back the bison is not just ecological. It is cultural restoration, a healing of land and identity. Despite their recovery, bison still face challenges. Most wild herds are confined to protected areas, making true large-scale migration difficult. Genetic purity is another concern, as many bison carry small amounts of cattle DNA due to historical crossbreeding. Land use conflicts also remain, as the Great Plains are heavily used for agriculture and development. Climate change adds new uncertainty to grassland ecosystems. Yet, despite these challenges, the bison continues to endure. As it always has. The American bison is more than an animal. It is a symbol of resilience. It has survived ice ages, mass migrations, near extinction, and human transformation of the land. Few species on Earth have such a dramatic story of collapse and recovery, and few inspire such awe when seen in the wild. To watch a herd of bison move across the prairie is to witness living history, a reminder of what once was and what still can be. Today, as sunlight fades over the Great Plains, the silhouette of a bison stands against the horizon, still powerful, still grounded, still wild. The prairie wind carries their presence like it always has, a whisper of ancient times, a promise of survival, and a reminder that even after near extinction, life can return. Not as it was, but as something enduring, something stronger. The American bison, king of the prairie, guardian of the grasslands, and a living symbol of resilience.